Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Spycast. I am your host, Robert Harris. And no, this is not a true crimes podcast. I hate to break it to you. That is just the name I chose. And today, this is the first episode, and we're going to be talking about my top 10 favorite video games. Yes, my top 10 favorite video games. Now, I thought I would start off my first podcast with something I'm very much interested in. And if you know me, I love video games. If you know anything about me, you would know that. But if you don't, yes, I indeed love video games. I spent lots of my childhood playing video games. I have since I was a young lad, and it has been a part of my identity since as long as I could remember. So, we're going to be going through my top 10, going from 10 down to number 1. These might be a little bit out of order, but for now, this is what my list looks like as of this point of 2023, April 27th. So this is my list as of this point. It has definitely changed over the years and has been influenced by new games that have come out. Most of the games on my list aren't very new. I don't think there's one that has come out in the past 3 to 4 years. If I remember correctly, I think the latest one came out in 2017, if I'm correct. But we'll have to see when we get to it. So I guess without further ado, I think we should hop right into the tier list. I shouldn't say a tier list because this is not what this is. This is just my top 10 favorites. So starting out at number 10, we have Half-Life 1. So Half-Life 1, I've been playing for a few years. I was introduced to it by my brother-in-law. I saw him playing the game, and I haven't heard anything about Half-Life before. I'm sure I've heard about it, but I couldn't remember what it was, or I'd never played it before. So that's how I got into Half-Life 1. Half-Life 1 was released in 1998, so a few years before I was born. I found out that some of the games that I enjoy playing are, a bit older. I guess this is definitely the oldest one in the list. So yeah, 1998. It's a first-person shooter game developed by Valve and is published by Sierra Studios for Windows. So it has been a Windows game since it was released. The first time I played it, I would say, was probably back when I was in high school, probably my sophomore year, I would say. And I kind of fell in love with the style of the game. And I love Half-Life 2, don't get me wrong. It's probably in my honorable mentions. It is not on my list. Half-Life 2 is not on my list. I love it, but it is just, I think Half-Life 1 is just a tad bit better. Even if the graphics are a bit outdated, I love it. The gameplay itself, the story, the environment is just all perfect in my mind. I've played it over countless times. There's not much to say about it. It's just an iconic game. The voices are iconic. The characters are iconic. I mean, the G-Man, the main protagonist, I guess. Or no, antagonist. Sorry. I get those two mixed up. Antagonist. It's hard to say because I don't know if he even counts as the main antagonist because he only shows up a couple of times. But technically, he kind of is the main antagonist. There has been expansion packs to Half-Life 1 that I've played, such as Opposing Force, Blue Shift, and I think some others. Let's see. I have the wikis for all the games that I have on my list pulled up, so I'm going to go through some of that. So Half-Life 1 is about a man named Gordon Freeman who works at a government scientific facility. I'm trying to find the name. Black Mesa Research Facility. So what happens is he goes to do his experiment, right? And it ends up causing a resonance cascade that severely damages and opens a portal to another dimension, which is called Zen, and brings in all types of alien forms that start causing havoc, and war breaks out. I'm not going to get too much into the story because it goes into Half-Life 2, but basically there's war that breaks out between the Zen and the human race, and it ends up with the Zen taking over Earth. And that's Half-Life 2. But Half-Life 1 is basically what happens right as the resonance cascade, happens. And I think it's really cool because the whole thing is set in one area. I shouldn't say one area, but it's the entire Black Mesa Research Facility. You don't go like out of that. Like you're outside of the facility at times, like in the canyons, because it's based in, I'm pretty sure, New Mexico, or somewhere down there in the desert. But you're able to go out there, and it's just such a cool environment. And it's a very linear story. Like, it doesn't change much in between gameplays, or it doesn't change at all. But I just still love it, and I think it's an amazing game, and I highly recommend it for anyone who is really into kind of the classic first-person shooters. But yeah, is there anything else I should go over with this game? Oh yeah, a big part of it is the United States Marine Corps is actually trying to cover up the incident, which ends up backfiring because it breaks out and the entire world is run over. But basically, you're trying to fight off both aliens and the government, which is really cool. I find that very fascinating, that you have to fight off both, and you're kind of a lone survivor, but not really, because there's other survivors. But you're very alone. You're the only character that you play as, and most of the time it's just you. You can find survivors and bring them along with you, but they don't really do much. There's the scientists who will sometimes heal you if you need to be healed, or the police officers or security guards who will open fire on enemies, but they aren't very strong and they will die if you bring them along with you. It's just, and they can't follow you into certain places, and you're doing basically human defying, like, it's interesting because what he does is absolutely ridiculous, and no mere mortal could do it. But everything he does could be done technically by someone. He's just a regular dude. He's a scientist. He uses a crowbar to beat people up and aliens, and he finds guns, and he manages to take down basically the entire military all by himself, which is ridiculous. But you could see yourself somehow being able to do that, and I think that's just really interesting. So I think that's enough about number 10. So we're going to move on to the number 9 spot on my list, which is Star Wars Battlefront 2. Now, I had trouble deciding between the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 or the new one, which was 2017, and I decided to go with the new one, the 2017 version, mostly because graphics. It is a very visually stunning game. I love it, and if you know me, I'm a big fan of the Star Wars universe. So being able to play in the Star Wars universe has always been a dream of mine and stuff like that. And it is just a very fun game. It is just a shooter. It's a multiplayer shooter, but there is a story mode, which I've played, and it's actually pretty good. Some people talk crap about it, but it's really cool because you get to see what happens after the Empire is, I shouldn't say destroyed, because that's not what happens. the Death Star was destroyed, and you see the remainings of the Empire as it is slowly dwindling after the defeat. And it's really cool because you start off as a special forces trooper in the Empire, and you go through and you the character, what's her name is anyways, I sorry, I'm trying to read off the wow, I'm struggling to speak, reading off the wiki while trying to convey also my my emotion and my thoughts about the whole thing. Her name is Iden Versio. That's it. So yeah, she's a special ops, and you see her and her thoughts about the Empire as she realizes how corrupt and how evil it is. And you see them switch to the Rebel Alliance, and as they try to take down the remaining parts of the Empire, and I think it's really interesting. I also the multiplayer is also really fun. You know, you get to play as clone troopers, Rebel Alliance droids, which was really cool, and the Empire. And you can be in big, like, full-time war scenarios. I mean, like a full battlefield with like 100 players, and I love those types of games. It feels, it makes you feel like you're really there. And it's just a beautiful game, and it's just so much fun. And it makes you really feel like you are in the Star Wars universe. Besides that, I mean, there's not much to talk about with this one. It is just a very fun game. I love Star Wars, and it's not surprising that I would love this game. It is just awesome. You can be, characters from the actual series like Luke Skywalker, Leia, Han Solo, Lando, Kylo. There's different game modes, and it's just a beautiful and fun experience for anyone who's a fan of not just Star Wars, but shooters as themselves. So we're going to move on to number 8. 8, right. But first, I'm going to take a quick break, get a drink of water, and I will be right back. And we're back. So we're going to continue off where we left off on number 8 on my top 10 video game list. So, continuing with the trend, my number 8 pick of my top 10 games of all time is Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. So this is a big childhood game for me. I love Star Wars, if you couldn't tell, and I also love Legos. So, putting those two together, you're bound to make a game that I love. Now, I know they did recently make a updated version of the game Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which I have played, but there's just something so good about The Complete Saga that just makes it so much better than the new one. And the new one is a great game. Don't get me wrong. It is so much fun, and it is visually very pleasing. But the original one is just fantastic. I love the style. It is, I mean, you could tell it's from when it came out, which this game, The Complete Saga, was released on, it appears 2007. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to make it look old, I guess, because you're not working with too many things that they're just Legos. Everything's Legos. But I mean, there is, seeing like part of the set, I guess you could say, that aren't Legos that. I mean, you could see that it is from 2007, but it's also a very good-looking game. It is fun. It follows the main story of Lego Star. I mean, it follows the main story of Star Wars, which I love. Without the new movies, which I could care less about. But that's not what we were talking about. So came out. It was developed by Traveler's Tales, and published by LucasArts and others like that. So on the wiki here it says Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga is a Lego-themed action-adventure video game based on the Lego Star Wars line of toys. It is a combination of the game Lego Star Wars the video game from 2005 and its sequel Lego Star Wars 2 the original trilogy, which span the first 6 movies of the Skywalker saga. So, yeah, I remember I've played Lego Star Wars the video game, which was 2005. I'm rolling over the cord to the headphones here, so I'm trying to fix that, sorry. So yeah, there's 2 different games. Just the video game, Lego Star Wars the video game 2005, which was the prequels, and that's classic on itself. I mean, I love the prequel video game, Lego Star Wars video games. Probably my favorite Lego games is the prequels. And then there's the original trilogy, which came out in 2006, which follows Luke's adventure, the first 3 movies, and those are great as themselves, but I think coming together, you create a more fuller game and a better gaming experience, and it's just iconic. I mean, it has all the songs from from Star Wars, so you're not being cheaped out on the production. You get everything that was given to you in the movies and made Lego. So, I mean, I've always loved building Legos. I have some Lego Star Wars back home. So, of course, I'd like this. There's not much to it. It's just Lego Star Wars, and it's a beautiful game. And I think anyone who's ever played it will say it is a very fun game and an enjoyable family experience. It's a family game. I mean, it's Legos. It's a toy. And I don't care if I'm 20 years old. I'm gonna play a Lego game. You can't tell me what to do. Anyways. So that's all we're gonna talk about for this one. It's simple. So we're gonna move on to number 7 on my list. So this one, I had trouble placing this one because this is a newer game, and especially a newer one that I've played. This game came out in 2019. It is called Days Gone. It's a PS4. It was originally a PS4 exclusive, but was released on PC. And I don't know about Xbox, but yeah. So it came out on PS4, and it was a Windows port. Was released on May of 2021. So a relatively new game, and it is a fantastic game. And I thought about putting it higher, but some of the games that I have higher are just a lot more nostalgic for me. This game's just beautiful, and it's fun. It's another post-apocalyptic game based in Oregon. And if you don't know me, I am from Oregon. So it is really cool to be able to play in a scene or in a setting that is so close to home that I can hear and see things and realize, oh, I've seen that. I've been there, and it's so cool. I'm sure everyone has thought like, man, what would happen if a real apocalypse happened? Where would I be? What would I do? And I feel like this game is a great interpretation of the post-apocalyptic series of video games. So it takes place in Oregon. Takes place in like Eastern Oregon. So I'm gonna read a little bit an excerpt from the Days Gone Wikipedia. So. Days Gone is a 2019 action-adventure video game developed by Bend Studios and is published by Sony Interactive Entertainment for the PlayStation 4, and a Windows port was released on May 2021. This game is set in the post-apocalyptic Oregon 2 years after the start of a pandemic that turned a portion of humanity into vicious zombie-like creatures. Former outlaw turned drifter Deacon St. John discovers his wife Sarah, having been assumed dead, may still be alive and goes on a quest to find her. So I'm not gonna, go too much into it because I don't want to spoil the game. That was actually a bit of a spoiler on itself. But yeah, you follow this man, Deacon, and his friend Boozer, and how you just explore. There's different camps, so different societies of people in the way. I shouldn't say wasteland. It's not what it's called, but in the area that you can do runs for. You kill zombies to collect camp credits. You buy guns. You do quests and stuff like that. It's a very simple concept, but it's done so well, and it's a very beautiful gaming experience. And the music is also very nice. It's you really can feel the emotion in some parts of the game because the music is so good, and the storytelling is just so amazing. And it's an open world game, so I love open world games. I just love being able to explore areas, and especially since this one's in Oregon, I can feel like I'm really there, because I know what Oregon's like, and it's very simple. It's very much like Oregon. So it's just so good. It's so good. I recommend it to anyone who can play this game. If you have a PlayStation 4 or Windows, you should definitely give Days Gone a try. So we're going to move on to number 6. All right, 6. Had to make sure. Oh, this game. This is definitely one of the first games I played on Windows or on a computer. It is a computer exclusive. Actually, I don't know if that's even true. Because it was actually released to Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, but it's not the same. It's really not the same thing. It's a Windows exclusive pretty much. So this game is Team Fortress 2. This is a classic game released in 2007. It is a multiplayer first-person shooter game developed and published by Valve Corporation. It is a sequel to the 1996 Team Fortress mod for Quake, and it's a 1999 remake of Team Fortress Classic. So, Team Fortress 2, team-based shooter. It's a very simple concept. There is a story to it. I'm not going to go into the story. You can learn that on yourself. But, it's a team-based game, 10 versus 10, I think. I don't know how many players are on each team, but it's red versus blue. It's a bunch of mercenaries who work for companies, red and blue. And you're basically fighting over... It's hard to explain this story because there's a lot to the story. There's a good bit to the story that I don't even know. But it's been out for a long time. It's definitely has a very big competitive scene because it's one of the original shooters, and it's a fun kind of animated style, and there's a huge community for the game that's been going strong since 2007. And it's kind of a collector, you can get new weapons, new cosmetics. It's basically a hat collection simulator game. The cosmetic scene in the game is one of the biggest points of emphasis for the game, which is amazing. I love it. But it can also be very addicting. There's a crate opening system. It's basically gambling. So I've had my fair share of spending unreasonable amounts of money on the game and not getting anything really in return. So that's the only reason why it's not as high as it is because it is very addicting. It's a very addicting game. And the community has I hate to say it's been pretty toxic in the past few years. Valve is kind of given up on the game, which is really sad to see. It's overrun with cheaters and hackers and just people who don't don't respect the game. It's sad, but it's an old game. I Games gotta go some points, I guess. It's an iconic game for anyone who knows Steam or Valve. Valve they created Half-Life, Half-Life 2 and Half-Life. So they're a very popular game or popular company, and they know how to make good games. Um, so there's not much more to talk about. It was released October 10th, 2007, created by Valve. Yeah, if you want to look up these games, you can. I highly recommend you give them all a try. So we're going to move on to number 5. We're halfway through the list. And number 5 is Fallout 4, created by Bethesda Game Studios. Fallout 4, such a good game. You're going to learn later in the list, there's another game created by Bethesda that is actually higher on my list. But Fallout 4 was released in 2015. It's an action role-playing game developed by Bethesda. It is the 4th main game in the Fallout series. And it's another post-apocalyptic game. So the game is set within an open-world post-apocalyptic environment that encompasses the city of Boston in the surrounding Massachusetts region, known as the Commonwealth. It makes use of a number of local landmarks, including Bunker Hill, Fort Independence, and Old North Bridge near Concord, as the bridge out of Sanctuary Hills. Yeah, I love this game. I have a tendency to really love post-apocalyptic games. I don't know why, but I just have an affiliation towards them. They're just really cool, seeing how the world would react to a kind of post-apocalyptic environment. And this one, unlike a disease like Days Gone that broke out, this one was a nuclear fallout. So basically, the world gets into a nuclear war, and everything's destroyed. The world is riddled with radiation. People mutate. People go into these big underground vaults, and the game takes place in the year 2287. It was taken 210 years after the Great War, which is, the end of it all, which caused catastrophic nuclear devastation across the United States. The player assumes control of a character referred to as the sole survivor, who emerges from a long-term cryogenic stasis in Vault 111 in an underground nuclear fallout shelter. So I love the Fallout franchise in the story it has created. The monsters are iconic. The music, the power armor, everything is just so iconic and fun to play. Now, people talk crap about Fallout 4, especially because some of the older Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3 are probably a bit more of a cult classic. But I love Fallout 4. Even the town building. I'm a big fan of town building games. I don't know why. It's very fun for me, and I will spend hours doing it. People hate a certain character who basically just sends you on repetitive missions over and over to save settlements, and people hate it. But I actually love it. I mean, I can see why people think it's boring or tedious, which it is, but there's a sense of accomplishment each time you do it that just keeps me coming back for more. Yeah, it's a very fun game. I'd recommend it to anyone. Yeah. So that's number 5 on my list. We're gonna take another break. I'm gonna go get some water. I will be back with you for number 4 on my top 10 video games of all time list. All right, guys. So we're back with number 4 on my top 10 favorite video games of all time list. So these are the big ones. These are my big ones. It's it's not top 3 for me. It's top 4. These 4 games are almost all on the same pedestal for me. So starting at all these 4 are almost all interchangeable in my opinion. But I think I'm okay with where they are on the list. So number 4 is SSX 3. Yep. So if you've heard of the SSX franchise, it is a snowboarding video game, which is funny enough because I don't even know how to snowboard. But this game is so nostalgic for me. This game I've had for years. I used to play it on the PlayStation 2 when I was really young. And I don't know, it just stuck with me. It's such a fun and simple game, and it just keeps bringing me back. And it was created by EA, developed by EA Canada, and published by Electronic Arts, which is EA. It was released in 2003. So this October 21st, 2003, this game is almost just a year younger than me. But it's a beautiful game. They remastered it a little bit, making it look the graphics, they increased the graphics a bit and they released it on the Xbox. It's a very pretty game for how old it is. It's hard to say why. It's just so good. I mean, the mountains, the scenery, the snow, it's just so cool. And it makes you it's a very unrealistic snowboarding game. If you know the SSX franchise, it is very over dramatized, if that's the right word for for it. But it is so much fun. I mean, you're going down these huge courses on these mountains, dodging obstacles, and it's so cool. You feel a real sense of speed and just power when you're boarding. Oh, I just hit the mic. Sorry about that. It is so much fun, and you get points for earning tricks. I mean, doing tricks. And now one of the biggest things for this game that I love is the soundtrack. This soundtrack to me is, I think, probably tied with the best soundtrack of all games, or in my opinion at least. It's so good. I mean, it's filled with early 2000s rock, and it's such good music. I will listen to it all the time, and I think it's definitely shaped how I listen to my music and the type of music I listen to. Which, if a game can do that, then it definitely deserves a top spot for me. There's not much to talk about. It's just a snowboarding game. But it's a cult classic game. Like, it's not a very popular game when you look at the numbers, but it's a cult classic for anyone who has played it. They love it. Let's see. It was scored in the PS2. It was scored a 93 out of 100. And for the Xbox, a 92 out of 100. And a GameCube, 92 out of 100. That's crazy. For just a snowboarding game, that's all it is. It's rated that high. It's incredible. I love it. So many companies rated it 9 out of 10 and higher for 3 different systems. It was also released on the GBA, the Game Boy Advance. It didn't get really good reception there. I never played it on there, so I can't say anything to that. But yeah, it is a phenomenal game. Such a beautiful game, amazing music. It's not much of a story. I mean, you're basically trying to conquer the mountain. You're trying to win races and beat people to, become the best snowboarder on the mountain. And it's so simple, but it's so much fun. And I've played it so many times, and I will continue to play it. I mean, we're going to move on, but there's not much to say because it's so simple, but it's just so good. So, yeah. All right. Oh, all right. I have a hard time with these next two picks. These next three picks, probably. But especially these next two, number 2 and 3. These two are almost like as good to me. It's hard to explain. They're so good that they could be in the same spot as each other. I could say these are both second and third place. So I have a hard time saying this, but number 3 is SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for the Bikini Bottom. Oh my gosh, guys. This game is so good. It is so good. It came out, let's see, when was it released? 2003. Also a game that came out 1 year after I was born. I've loved SpongeBob since I was a little kid. SpongeBob was my favorite show growing up. Oh gosh. It was created by Heavy Iron Studios, published by THQ. They did a remake of this recently, which is Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which is amazing. I love it. But it is nothing better than the original, which sadly is not on the computer, the Windows. So I can't play the original, but I have played a lot of the rehydrated version, which is very good. So I played it on the PlayStation 2. It was also released on the GameCube and the Xbox. Separate versions developed by Vicarious Visions and AWE Games, respectively, were released on the GameCube Advance and Windows. I haven't played the different version, and I don't really want to because I think it's a side-scroller. I don't know. I haven't really played it. I think, Vicarious Studios were the people who made Tony Hawk Pro Skater, so I'm sure they did a good job, but it'll never beat the PS2 version. So, this game, it's so good. I could rave about this game all day. So the plot, I'm going to read a little bit of the plot. In Bikini Bottom, Plankton, the evil genius owner of the Chum Bucket, has built a new machine called the Duplicationtron 3000 to produce an army of robots, which he plans to control and steal the Krabby Patty's secret formula. After creating them, he realized that the switch to the Duplicationtron has accidentally been set to Don't Obey. This leads to the robots to seize control of the Chum Bucket out of Plankton and wreak havoc all over the Bikini Bottom. So, SpongeBob and Patrick, you can play as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy. And you basically are, going through different stages of different areas, such as the Jellyfish Fields, Goo Lagoon, Bikini Bottom itself, the actual city. You can even play in the Dutchman's Graveyard. That's what I was trying to say. Kelp Forest, and the Deep Dark. The Abyss? I don't remember what they called it. But, that one episode where he goes into the deep part of the ocean and everyone speaks in tongues where they speak like this. You know what I mean? It's so good. It's so much fun. It's a simple platformer, but it's so enjoyable, especially since, part of the childhood aspect of it. It's nostalgic. the music is so iconic to me. It's another cult classic. It's one of the best games ever made, in my opinion. Actually, you know what? No, not in my opinion. It is one of the best games of all time. Um, it didn't really receive too much, too outstanding reception. I mean, it scored a 7.3 out of 10 on IGN, which isn't bad, but it should be higher. The graphics aren't terrible for the time. I mean, it feels like SpongeBob. It feels like you're watching the show, which is so good. Let's see. The game has won numerous awards, including Favorite Video Game at the 2004 Kids' Choice Awards, and entered the Player's Choice Platinum Hits and Greatest Hits for GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 2 version sold an estimated 880,000 copies in 2006. Let's see. The GameCube version at in 2006, Edge Magazine ranked the Game Boy Advance version at number 34 on the list of this century's top 50 handheld games. So, it speaks for itself. It's an amazing game. Even if you don't like SpongeBob, I mean, you probably have to like SpongeBob to like this game. It can be... It's just so good. If you love SpongeBob, you'll love this game. It's simple. It's charming. It's just so much fun. So, yeah, there's not much more to say about it. We're going to move on to number 2, which, as I said, can probably be placed at the same highness as this one. My number 2 is Fallout New Vegas. So I ranked Fallout 4 at 5. I have to count every time because it's hard. I have trouble remembering where it was on the list. But yeah, so I put this on number 2. It's an older game. It was created by the same people. It's another post-apocalyptic role-playing video game developed by Obsidian Entertainment and published by Bethesda. So it was a different developer than Fallout 4. The original ones were created by Obsidian Entertainment, and I think they did an amazing job. So this one, it's the same environment as Fallout 4. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say environment. This takes place in the this game is set primarily in the post-apocalyptic Nevada, California, Arizona, and Utah area, especially the Las Vegas city area. So it takes place there. This story, it's such a fun story. It's very rich. It's a lot darker than a lot of the games in the franchise, which is probably one of the reasons I love it. It's not afraid to show like the troubles of what it's like living in a nuclear fallout. Oh man, it's just as I said earlier with SSX3, this is the game I think it ties with the best soundtrack of all time. Not counting number 1, which is an original soundtrack. These are, I'm probably saying the wrong word, but Fallout and SSX3 have music they've taken or used. So Fallout 4, the music is like oldies, old country, like classic country, like Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash. It's that kind of music. And I love it. It feels so country that I don't even like country music. But the type of music they use for this is so amazing, and I love it. Oh, jeez. So this game was released October 19th, 2010. The graphics are a bit outdated. I will give you that. Some games that came out earlier will look a bit better. But it is an open world game, so that's probably a reason why it's a little lower on the graphical scale. it's still a very pretty game. It's very ambient. It feels very much like what they're trying to convey, which is, you know, a dirty, you know, dusty, old, rundown cities and towns and settlements. It's so fun. It's so cool. I have trouble putting into words how I love this game so much and why. So the story, I'm going to read an excerpt from the story on the Fallout Wiki. Fallout New Vegas takes place in 2281, 4 years after the events of Fallout 3, 40 years after Fallout 2, 120 years after Fallout, and 6 years before the events of Fallout 4. This game is set in the Mojave Desert following the Great War. Three entities are vying? What, vying? They're fighting for control for New Vegas and the surrounding region, including the New California Republic, Vegas's Mr. House, and the Caesar's Legion. You play as the Courier. The player character was meant to deliver a package to the New Vegas, but they were intercepted by the Great Khans, led by Benny, near Goodsprings. Benny steals the package, which gives off one of the most iconic video game lines of all time, where he points a gun at you. Truth is, the game was rigged from the start, and then he shoots you in the head. He survives the shot. He shoots them twice in the head and leaves them dead in a shallow grave. They are rescued by a robot named Victor, transporting them to the nearby Doc Mitchell, who saves their life. After the courier is given some medical tests, they enter the open world, and the quest, Ain't That a Kick in the Head, begins. And that's how the game begins. It's an amazing game. The story is so cool. The environment is so fun. There's also lots of add-ons to the game that I haven't really played much of. I need to do that, but yeah, I just love how they aren't afraid to pull punches with this game. You know, you see people who are like, you know, prostitutes and, you know, homeless people and drug addicts. You see this, and it's a real thing. You can't say this is not. This is what the world would be like if there was an apocalypse. You know, it's gonna become mayhem. It's gonna become chaos. People are gonna do things that they wouldn't do in today's world. So there's murdering, there's kidnapping, there's selling, there's slavery. That's a big part. The Caesar's Legion is a slave. They're big into slavery. It's crazy what they were able to get away with. And it's so cool that you get to see this and play it, and you get to choose your own path. I'm so passionate about this game. Even if I wasn't born in the time for this game. I mean, I was a few years older when, you know, I started playing for the first time, but I was introduced to this with my brother who was into Fallout before I was. It's just so good. There's so much to this game that makes it a masterpiece, and people agree with me. This game has some of the best reception out of any games out there. I mean, okay, a fan's perspective, it was given so much praise. Fallout New Vegas received generally favorable reviews on the Metacritic, receiving a Metascore of 84 out of 100, both PC, Xbox 360, and an 82 out of 100 on the PS3. This game received several awards and nominations, including Golden Joysticks Award in 2011 RPG Game of the Year, and nominations for the two 2011 BAFTA Awards, including Best Strategy Game and Best Story. So it's an older game, so there's definitely bound to be bugs and glitches, but it's part of the charm. I mean, it's an older game, and it's just so good. It's another cult classic, but uh, yeah, I I I could go on about this for a long time, but we're getting low on time, so I think we're gonna move on to the number one game on my list. Now, if you know me, you know exactly what I'm gonna say, and I think this is a number one for a lot of people. All right, so here we go. My number one game on my top 10 list of all time is Minecraft. Yep, Minecraft. Minecraft came out in 2009 and has been, a big part of my life since. I played it back on the Xbox 360 back when I was in middle school, and I've been playing it ever since. And oh my gosh, it's not like it's a story-rich game or anything, but the amount you can do is insane. I mean, I have friends who've been playing this game for years, and I have a friend who has a server who's had it up for 10 years. And I've been on that server for 10 years. It's crazy how this game can bring in together people and just have people have fun. I don't know. It's a simple 3D survival sandbox game created by Mojang. It's a single player, a multiplayer game. Go on servers. You can play mini games. You can regular survival. You can do survival multiplayer. And I think why this game is ranked number one on my list is the memories you can create with this game. Some of my greatest memories were with playing Minecraft with friends late into the night hours, creating things, having a fun time, laughing hysterically. The amount you can do with people in this game is just so fun. It's a simple, easy game. It's not hard. It's from a video game designer perspective, it's a simple created game, and it's a block game. It's pixels. It's created in chunks. But there's so many things people have added to the game. There's a huge modding community for this game. There's thousands of mods. And this game has the best soundtrack, that original soundtrack. Like, they made it specific for the game. It is one of the most iconic game soundtracks. It has iconic, characters. Like the Creeper. You can't go a day without seeing a little kid with a Minecraft t-shirt. It's insane that a game this simple can be just so popular. I don't know what to say. But I love it. I don't know how I'm not going to stop playing it. I'm going to keep playing it for as long as I know. Some of the greatest memories were back on Xbox 360 playing with my cousin or my friends. Minecraft Pocket Edition. That might have been I think Pocket Edition was the first one I ever played. Yeah, I don't know. And there's been plenty of spin-offs like Story Mode, Minecraft Earth, Minecraft Dungeons, which I haven't really played, stuff like that, but it's funny. You can look up the word sandbox on Wiki, and the first thing that shows up is Minecraft. That's so fun. It's so funny. It's just iconic. It's so popular. It's so famous. It's no wonder it's one of the highest selling games of all time. I think it's number one. Yeah, number one of all time 238 million copies sold since 2011. Like, what? It's insane. It's an amazing game. Yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore. That's all I have to say. So, I hope you guys enjoyed my top 10 list for the greatest games of all time. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, I'm going to try to make more. But this is going to be the first episode of the Spy Cast. And I have a lot of plans for this. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do, especially since I'm a college student right now, so I'm very busy all the time. But if I can, I'll try to make more and more of this kind of thing, because I love it. I love being able to talk and just create things. I love podcasts, and I'd love to be able to use my voice and talk to people and tell stories and, my opinions and stuff. So, thank you guys for a wonderful first episode of the Spy Cast. And, well, I don't really have a specific way to do an outro, but I'm sure it'll come with time. But thank you guys so much for watching. And make sure to stay tuned for more content and more podcasts. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.